And so this is my original Super Nintendo, and in this video, we're going to go over my 10 favorite Super Nintendo games, and I'm going to show it on the RGB30 from Powkiddy, but just want to make it known that these are my favorite games, not the best games or what I consider the best games, but just ones that have nostalgia for me, ones that just I remember vividly and I enjoy playing and all of that. So it's going to be a fun video like that. And I'm going to jump back and forth between my actual Super Nintendo and my RGB30 because I do have this hooked up to a Dell 4:3 aspect ratio monitor. It's a 2007 FPB. I'll leave a link in the description to what it is and where you can get it. But it's an awesome 4:3 LCD monitor. I've been using it for retro games for a long time now, and it's pretty cheap. I got it from Facebook Marketplace for like 50 Canadian dollars or something like that. So you can get them pretty cheap as well. Good option if you still have a lot of just retro systems and you want to connect them to something. It's 4:3, so it's perfect. Back to SNES, and for those that weren't around back then, games were really expensive, and so were the actual consoles. So you were mostly relying as a child, and I was a child, on just birthdays and Christmas and occasions like that, so you could just beg and beg and beg for a new game. Otherwise, you were just renting games from Blockbuster and hoping that you could beat them in the time before you returned it, which a lot of us did, but that was the other option. So for the most part, you're just begging for games and you'll get them every quarter, and so I don't have a lot of Super Nintendo games because of that. A lot of my time playing this was other people's houses, borrowing games, all of that fun stuff back then. By the way, special thanks to Lit NXT for sending the RGB30 over. I've already reviewed this device and done a setup guide on it, but I thought it would be fun to do Super Nintendo on this because of the 8:7 aspect ratio, and a lot of people love it for this device. And while I'm a bit of a 4:3 person, figured this would be the best device to just show off the games today. So as far as actual cartridges go, I have Super Mario World still. I have Mario Paint, which I don't know if a lot of people have played, and this game's awesome. I have Donkey Kong Country, the first one, and this is weird because I vividly remember playing 2 and 3 a lot more than the first one, but for some reason I have the first one. I love this game, it's great. And then lastly, for the people that don't think I play fighting games, I don't. But Killer Instinct, and I think this was my favorite fighting game growing up, even though I absolutely suck at it, and you're going to see in my videos today that I just still can't play this game, but you can tell it's mine because apparently I wrote my name on the back and it says Joey, but you kind of had to do that back then when you were just bringing carts over to people's houses, because if you didn't, you just never saw it again. So let's just jump right in. And again, this is going to be my 10 favorite nostalgic SNES games. By no means the best SNES games, but the ones that I vividly remember playing growing up and having a lot of fun with. So let's just jump right in. In no particular order, the first up is The Adventures of Batman and Robin. As a kid, this game was hard, like really, really hard. And I don't even know if I beat it, but it didn't matter back then. The game was just fun to play. Now, I'm trying to do the entire video just from memory, but I feel like this was one of those games where I had the password system as well. And so you had to write down your password to return to where you were. There was quite a few games like that on the SNES, but either way, for anyone that's just been able to glimpse maybe a tattoo of mine, you know that I'm a massive Batman fan. I always have been, and this game has just been right time, right place, and it felt good to just play as Batman as a kid. I don't think this would be on anybody else's list but mine, but I absolutely love this game. Next up is one that's probably on everybody's list, but it's Super Mario World. But if you want to talk about probably the most perfect game ever made, it's Super Mario World, and it's easy. Throughout my entire life, I could go anywhere. Anyone's house, a barcade, anywhere I want, and if I see Super Mario World, I'm going to be there for hours just playing. Leave me alone, I'm in my zone. The level designs, the quick nature of just playing, the fun secrets, the special zone, and then how everything changes to fall when you beat it. There's so much replayability packed into that one single game, and then all of the ROM hacks that spun off of it, there's just so many. A current favorite of mine for a ROM hack is A Plumber for All Seasons. There's multiple worlds with spring, summer, fall, and winter, a bunch of levels, new graphics, and a bunch more. Honestly, just super fun playing this, but I'll always be back to the original. Next up is another curveball, but it's Virtual Bart. Apparently I was a sucker for hard games when I was a kid, but this game was also super hard. It had awesome levels though, and each one was different. From the one where you're a baby Bart just swinging from branches, to being a Bart pig, to the Bart dinosaur, but I think my two favorite ones are the tomato throwing game and the water slide. It's fun to just throw tomatoes at various Simpsons characters, and it's super fun to just slide down the water slide and avoiding obstacles. I don't even know how I played this game as a kid because I didn't own it, and I don't know if I borrowed it from someone, but I remember spending a lot of time playing this game, and it's still stuck with me to this day. I can vividly remember a lot of this game, and it's crazy that you can do so almost 30 years later. Moving on back to a popular title, and it's Donkey Kong Country. Look, I personally think in retrospect that Donkey Kong Country 2 is a better game overall. And while I'm pretty sure that I own that as well, and I have no idea where it is, Donkey Kong Country has a special place in my heart. Obviously, you play as Donkey Kong here, and you're trying to get your banana horde back from King K. Rool. But this game was great at just balancing challenge with ease. It ramps up significantly as you make your way through the different worlds, with your first real challenge being that minecart level, and then you just go to the stop and go sections, which are just horror and nightmare fueled. You have a ton of different animals like the rhino, the frog, the swordfish, the ostrich, and the parrot, and there was a ton of replayability with this game as well, in the same way that Super Mario World has. It gets to that point where even though you've beaten it so many times and hundreds of times, you can just still load it back up and play right through. I don't know how to capture it in words, but that's something that retro games have over so many modern games nowadays. So I mentioned this before, but did you know that I actually used to play a fighting game, and that's Killer Instinct? I actually chuckled when I remembered this game because I was never a fighting person. I've obviously played a bunch, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and all of that, but they never really stuck with me except for Killer Instinct. And this had just a great cast of characters with cool moves, but my favorites were Glacius and Cinder. I honestly don't remember a lot of the moves either. I know Glacius does this cool turn into a puddle thing, and I had to look up how to do it. And then I know the Cinder does the cool fireball thing, and I just remember spamming that all the time, and I think I still do it in this video. But that was just me, and that was how I like to play, and obviously I never won barely any matches, but it was a fun game to just play because the stages, the music, the fight on intro was just awesome. Back to a bit of an obscure one here, but it's Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage. So you know that I love Batman, and Spider-Man isn't too far behind either. But Venom and Carnage are two of my favorite comic book characters, and all of them are in this, and it's awesome. But once again, this is a very hard game. I'm pretty sure this game had passwords too, but I can't remember. The coolest thing about this game was the red cartridge and the box art. Just absolutely awesome before you even start playing. Then you start playing, and it's very much a beat-em-up style game that just keeps adding new mechanics like wall climbing and swinging and more. Then so much more happens story-wise, and more characters show up, and it's just one of those things that it's super fun to play even nowadays. I actually don't remember again how I played this one, or where it came from. The 90s were a bit of a blur. Then we come to Mario Paint. And I still have the mouse pad and the mouse right here. But my god, this game just slaps in so many different ways, and it all starts with the title screen music, and it just gets you going already. And you haven't even done anything yet. Then you jump in and you're just like, I'm going to create the best pictures ever with the best music and everything. The amount of time I spent as a kid just creating music would blow your mind, and just coming up with fun sounds. But when you get bored of that, you play the Fly Swatter game. And it looks like it's simple and easy, but it's super fun. And then the big bug comes out and you kill it, and then you move on to other levels. But I think my favorite mode out of all of them was just the picture book coloring. I don't know how many times I just colored in this picture of Super Mario World, but it was a lot. Mario Paint is super fun. Next up is Super Mario Kart. Given that most of the times I was playing an SNES was with people around, having a multiplayer game as a go-to was a must, and it was Super Mario Kart. The funny thing is, it's not even my favorite Mario Kart. That's Mario Kart 64 for me. But this was my introduction to the series, and when this is all you had back then, you loved it. Going back to it now is super hard, and it hurts your brain a little bit, but it's an absolutely fun game. I have a lot of fond memories of playing this for hours and hours, and it's crazy to see how far we've come from those days to something like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Second last on my list is Tetris Attack. If you want to talk about a cozy game with just a lot of charm and fun, Tetris Attack was mine. But then you get the big red blocks that want to ruin you, and it's no longer fun, and it's stressful, and all of your blocks look sad and crushed, and you're just trying to survive. But man, I love this game. I don't think it's exactly a surprising opinion to love Tetris, but like Super Mario World, it's one of those games where no matter where you are in life, you can just pick up and play and actually have fun with it. Nowadays, with games like Tetris Effect, which is also awesome, you can still experience some of that, but nothing beats the older ones. Last on my list is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Imagine playing this game without a guide or the ability to just Google it. Yeah, that was us back then, and I still remember having to ask others just how to beat it or what to do next and that sort of thing. But man, did you have a lot of fun playing A Link to the Past. I mean, of course you did. It's rated as one of the best games of all time, and that's not without reason. This again falls into the bucket of I have no idea how I played this, as I don't remember owning it, but I can vividly remember playing all of it. It started my love of Zelda, which continued on and on throughout the years, and while it's not my favorite Zelda of all time, that goes to Ocarina of Time, it's right up there, and when you consider the amount of work that went into this game, the design, the puzzles, the music, and all of it, it's an absolutely fantastic video game. And with that, that's my top 10 SNES games that I just vividly remember playing or loving, or my favorites, basically. And so I'd love to hear your comments, what your favorite games are, and put them in, and I'm curious how they differ from mine. But these are the ones that I remember owning and playing through and having a lot of fun with. But I might be misremembering a lot because, again, the 90s were a big blur to me. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow, and hope you all have a good one.